Hey, everybody.
Hi, welcome.
Jesse gave us the countdown, the 3, 2, 1 countdown.
That's
Did
right.
you all
And that
hear that?
means whenever we hear that, we know we're live.
Yes, absolutely.
Thanks,
Although there
Jesse.
have been times when he didn't give us the 3, 2, 1 countdown and we just appeared.
In the mid conversation, mid
It
doing
was,
something silly.
it
And
was,
then we're like, wow, thanks.
yeah,
Thanks, Jesse. Thanks for
yes.
capturing that for everybody. No, thanks for
Oh,
revealing our silly side to the public.
yes. Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Well, welcome you guys. Bree, we love you too. And
Love you,
Gage
Bree.
is here. Gray is here.
Oh,
Akil
cool.
Masterplay. Jono, wait, very
Gage
grown
is
out.
here.
Wow, you guys, a lot of people here tonight. You guys are
Yeah.
stinking awesome. So welcome to Don't Worry Wednesday. It's the show where we handle any issues you may or may not be having, hypothetical or real. And you just post them in the chat or post them on our website at this address right here.
I like how you added hypothetical in there. Sometimes people just have hypothetical questions, not dealing with anything in their life. They're just, hey, what if this did happen?
Yeah, it's true. Yep, we handle hypotheticals.
Hey, love you too, bye.
Yeah, or if you got somebody else going through something, that is maybe shy to ask but would like to know, we do that as well.
Yeah, sometimes you have a friend going through something, you want to know how to figure out how to help them best you can.
Yeah, absolutely. But yep, just go ahead and post them in the chat or post them on the website there that I just posted a link to. And yeah, we'll do our best to take a stab at offering some perspective, some encouragement, and love. We're not professional therapists, and we're not a substitute for professional counseling, but we just do our best to help any way we can because we love you guys, and you guys have supported us, and so we're doing the best we can to give back.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of times when I've had a problem, just a new, fresh set of eyes looking at it has done a lot to help whatever situation I was going through. So, yeah, you guys are amazing, and we've got a backlog of some here that we could talk about.
Gage is finally here for us, but Gage, have you already gone through with the job interview? That's kind of the question.
Oh, yes, it was about a job interview, wasn't
it? Yeah, he said. I don't know. So, Gage, would you like us to do yours still about the job interview or no? Because I mean, obviously, it may have happened already.
And Princess is here. Princess, you're awesome. I need to say that. Princess. Oh, and just so everybody knows, we did not say this last time. Our illustrious producer.
Illustrious. Can you define illustrious?
Illustrious means
pretty swell.
Awesome. Is Jesse Van Slyke. He is our producer. He is absolutely fantastic. He's also the system admin guy at bss.studio. So if you're having an issue, just email him. I do it all the time.
Joe does.
Because I have issues. It's great. I might be having an issue not with the website, just general issues in general, and I feel free to email Jesse.
There you go.
Because he is there for you. So, yes.
Thanks, Jesse.
So, Gage, congratulations. The interview went well.
Awesome.
So, yeah, it already happened. Oh, Princess. Right. Thank you, Princess. She just put the definition of illustrious.
Illustrious, well-known, respected, and admired for past achievements.
Yes. All right. Yes, nice. That is Jesse. For sure.
That sounds like Jesse to me.
Yep. So, okay. I mean, if you'd like, Gage's is such a great question.
Okay.
And I think a lot of people go through this. I know I have been through that same type of situation before. That
sure.
he's posted. So if you don't mind, Gage, I'd still like to discuss what you posted here.
Yeah, would you be cool with that? I mean, I think that would be, I mean, it might help somebody here, you know, who's going through a similar thing.
Mm-hmm. Gage is just waiting on results of them looking over your medical exam, and then I think they're going to talk to you about going to Georgia for 2 weeks for training.
Wow.
Wow. That's pretty cool. There is also a response. If you go to Gage's topic, I'm going to actually post that in here too, where Gage's topic was posted by the also illustrious Princess Yellow.
Princess Yellow's been awesome.
Yes. And there is a response on there from Slightly Above Average Joe. That young man, I call him a young man because he is to me.
The young Joe, as opposed to the not as young Joe, but still young Joe.
Right. That young man has a lot of wisdom under his belt. You know, he is wise beyond his years, and he has posted a great response on there. But so, okay, Gage. So Gage posted on the website or on the chat, he posted, ever since I've been here last, things have been a roller coaster. I've stayed at my same job, but I'm getting ready to go in for my interview with the security agent at the airport. I'm getting really nervous, and I'm wondering if either of you have any advice for this kind of situation, since it's a rather important job to be getting, and I feel somewhat underqualified.
All right.
So, Ryan, you can kick us off because I read it.
All right. Awesome. Underqualified is better than overqualified. Jesse has experience with that.
Oh my, yes.
Very unfortunately. But anyways, you know, ultimately, you've already gone through the process. You've already successfully went through the interview, and they're just looking over your medical records or whatever. That's awesome. Congratulations. Congratulations, Gage. That's super sweet.
Absolutely.
You know, the thing about interviews is this. A job interview is really just, you're trying to get a job, but the best way to do it is to impress the person who's going to hire you, not by showing them the things you're capable of, but by making them feel good about you, or making them feel good, and more likely making them have an emotional connection to you. So I think we did talk a little bit about this, me and my brother, while you were here. But if you're trying to land a job interview, you know, if anybody out there is looking to get a job, the best thing you can do is get an interview with the person that hires, with the hiring manager. So when you go into a job, ask for that. You say, hey, I'd like to schedule an interview with the hiring manager, or something along those lines, after you turn in your application. Because if they're looking, they will see you. And the reason you want to see them is because if you form a relationship with that person's going to want to hire you. A lot of times people hire their friends because they know them. A lot of times people hire people they know because they know them. And they don't probably know you. The main reason people hire, the whole main thing is based on their emotion. A lot of times it's not necessarily based on logic. It's mostly based on what they feel. They'll look at someone and say, I don't know, something was sketchy about them, so no. And, or they'll be like, oh, wow, I had a really wonderful time when I was talking to this person. Even though that's not necessarily what they're thinking, that's what's going on in the back of their head. Because we're all humans. We all deal with relationships and emotions and etc. Even people who hire people deal with life in that way. So basically, if you want to land an interview, if you want to land a job, the best thing you can do, talk to the manager and say, and make them feel good about themselves. Ultimately, you just go in there, you try to make them have a good time by being enjoyable to be around. And a lot of times, if you're nervous, you can say that. Just say, hey, I'm a little nervous because I've never really done this before, but how does this work? be upfront about that. And then they'll get to tell you. People like to be able to show that they're smart. And so when you ask questions like, hey, how does this whole thing work? Do you have any advice or whatever? That makes people feel good. So asking questions to people, you might feel like, oh, I shouldn't ask questions because if I look like I don't know what I'm doing, they're gonna think I'm stupid and they won't hire me. But the opposite is true. If you just make them feel good about themselves, generally you'll get the job. Just be good at dealing with people. So how do you do that? Practice in real life, talking to people and learning how to discuss things with them. But like I said before, what matters most is not what you look like, but what they look like to themselves when you're around them. So just compliments go a long way, as long as they're sincere and you try to compliment them on the things or relate to them on the things that are important to them. I had a job interview with a guy and we ended up talking about TV, and how a lot of people spend too much time watching TV. This was many, many years ago. And so we got in the conversation. I was like, yeah, and we don't even have a TV in our house anymore. And he's like, me neither. Yeah, we sold it off, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, yeah, you got the job, by the way, at the end of it. And I was like, yeah, well, of course, we had a good conversation. Ultimately, that's why. But I liked him as a person and we had a good time because I, just if you have a good time with the interviewer, they're going to remember that and they're going to feel good about you when they're hiring you because they're like, yeah, this guy, yeah, I remember him, so that's ultimately the best advice I can give on a job. So yeah, what do you got on the subject?
Yeah, well, exactly what you just said.
Oh, cool.
Because that's pretty much it. Well, really, I mean, I've seen lots of people, people like you were dealing with, Gage, just the uncertainty, maybe you didn't feel like you were qualified for this position. I've known people who, there are job postings that might say a certain type of degree is required,
5 years of experience, etc.
Yeah, exactly. And people will just apply even though they don't have that qualification. And sometimes, depending on how strict the rule is on needing to have that qualification, there are jobs where you got to have certifications, you got to have some kind of license or degree or something, in order to do it. But in a lot of cases, I actually got to speak to the president of a fairly large, oh geez, what kind of company is this? It's they make vaccines, they make different, so it's like a science chemistry laboratory type company, right? And this guy, he said there are jobs here where you need to have the degree, but on every ad that we put out for this job, we say you need to have the degree. It's not necessarily you have to have it, but what we like is when people have a degree, it shows us that they have the ability to finish something. So they have the ability to stick with something, and so that's kind of what they look for and the reason they say that. But it's not necessarily a requirement for the job they're doing, because quite frankly, I don't know, any of you guys who have gotten jobs, you probably have experienced, okay, I know you learned how to do this way at school. I know you learned it this way at school, but I need you to forget all that and we're going to do it this way instead. This is how we do it around here. And it's like, really? I just paid that much money for all that school and training and now I'm supposed to just forget it?
Eyebrow raises.
That's I don't think that's a pretty cool idea, but we've all, that's kind of how it works out there. And so like what Ryan said, if you can make the other person feel at ease, that's going to be great for you, because if a technical ability gets you in the door or gets you an interview, the thing that gets you a job and keeps the job for you, which is more important, the thing that keeps that position for you is your ability to work with others. Your ability to work with other people, to be on a team, or to, the way you handle people and the way you handle yourself and your attitude and stuff like that. If you have that type of self-control and you can work well with other people, those aspects of you are way, way more valuable to a company that's looking to employ you than your technical ability, because that stuff can all be trained. How you do a job can be trained. I've heard of people that, started on a shop floor, at a factory, working just the basic, entry level position at a factory, and then didn't do engineering school, but ended up being an engineer just because of their leadership ability and their people ability and their ability to get things done. They were able to learn everything they needed to know about the engineering as it related to that job while at the job. So that's another, just because you may not have all of the qualifications, that doesn't necessarily mean the door is closed to you. Because like Ryan said, if you can go in there and just treat that person interviewing you like a person and have a good time, and understand. I don't know if when you said that, you might have said it. I know you said it on previous streams, Ryan, but the person interviewing you is just as nervous as you are.
Yeah, a lot of times they don't necessarily. Yeah, it's so true. It really is.
It's an uncomfortable situation for both of you.
And I think it was Kyle who said that.
Oh, was it? Okay, maybe that right. I know I had heard it somewhere on a stream. But yeah,
usually they're just as inconfident in figuring out how to interview, because no one's got a system down. It's just a conversation ultimately, and so you can guide the conversation. They can guide the conversation, but whatever happens, if everyone feels good, like you got a pretty good foot in the door.
Absolutely. I'll tell you this. There's this statistic came from way back when. They've known this for almost 100 years at least, where it's been said that 85% of your success at a position is your ability with working with other people. 15% is your ability to do the job technically correct. But 85% is how you deal with others and your attitude. So it would seem like at higher education, which is mainly, we're told we need to go to college so we can get a good job, right? We need to go to college, get a degree so we can get a good job in whatever field we want. But everything that they train you at college gets you that 15%. The technical ability, the technical knowledge, it gets you that lowest level knowledge. Well, it's not lowest level. That was the wrong.
Lowest denominator.
Yes. Okay. So it gets you 15% of the way to success in that job. The other 85% is your ability with people. So it would seem like they'd put an emphasis on that, but they don't. And college costs a lot of money.
It does.
And so if college is valued at, however much per year, I don't know what the prices are now. When I went, it was like $15,000 per year at the university that I went to. It was in state, it was public university. But $15,000 a year times 5 years, because, whatever. So what's that?
15 times 5, that's what's half of 15?
75,000.
7.5, that's 75,000, yeah.
$75,000 for that education. But in a handful of books, I learned more about the 85% than I ever would learn at, through the college program. And it's amazing. These books are like How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie, How I Raised Myself from Failure to Success by Frank Vetcher. How to Have Confidence and Power in Dealing with People by Les Giblin. I mean, these books are classics. They're old, but the principles never, ever, ever change. And if you learn that, then that gets you the rest of the way there to success in your whatever field you decide you want to do, because you're going to be dealing with other people. And the better you get there, the better you're going to do. So I would encourage you, look into some of those. Sooner or later, I'm gonna actually post a list of books, somewhere.
There you go.
Good for that kind of stuff. I'll put it on bss.studio, like book list of people's books and stuff like that.
People skill books, right? Because I think that's something that we can all get better at. Even there's no end to getting better at that. We are all constantly learning and readjusting our attitude, especially. Attitude is one of those things where it requires mastery. It is essential to master your attitude in life. If you want to be happy, if you want to have a good life. But I think it's one of those things that you don't have many things out there that try to help you master your attitude or help you learn how to readjust your attitude when it's not spot on, etc. So yeah, that's one of those things. People skills, attitude, these type of things are I think extremely essential in a job. I remember, I've worked a couple of jobs, and I'll tell you, every single one of them, even one where you think, I wouldn't even be talking to people because I just have to go around and take pictures of houses. That one more than any required even people skills. I mean, otherwise I'd probably be dead right now. Like, maybe not. But hey, when you get threatened, like, hey, hold on, stand right there on the porch. I'm gonna go get my shotgun. You learn how to deal with people. You learn that dealing with people and learning that that knowledge, which they don't generally teach in school, which is unfortunate, is extremely important, and can really change so much of like everything that's going on around you rather. But anyways, Gage, that's pretty great what you said. He said, funnily enough, the lady who prepped me for the interview told me everyone there was reading from a script and they tried their best not to deviate from it, but they all did anyways. Haha. Yeah. I'm curious if you had a script or not. I would myself never read from a script. The reason is because I know from my own personal experiences, if I ever try to do a speech in class, if I wrote a script out, I did terrible. Not because what I wrote was terrible, but because the flow, the connection I had with the people, and my attitude went all down the drain because I'm focused on paying attention to reading what I'm reading and making sure I get every word and don't miss a line, and that, and I'm just reading from a page. But if I'm actually giving a speech, I find that the less notes I have, the better I do. Because then I'm being more natural. We don't normally speak with papers in front of us. We normally speak from improvisation and going with the flow of thought. So I find that's
very, best. That's very true. I've done a lot of things from scripts. I have come up with different scripts for, when I make phone calls for booking appointments for, different insurance type stuff, or, or when I run into a homeowner in my job, or, even, the disclaimer at the beginning of Don't Worry Wednesday. I mean, these are things that I've written down, and they are scripted. However, the key with using any type of script is you have to practice it enough to make it yours, to make it you saying the words rather than reading the words. It has to feel like you saying it. So you have to say it over and over and over and over and over again until by then you've got it memorized anyway. So you're not using a script anymore, probably. And if you are, it's just for reference, depending on how long it is. But, yes, outlines, Princess.
Mm.
Yeah, as
He
long
was-
as you're getting your main points across, that's what's important. But yeah, Gage said he didn't have the script. It was the interviewers who had the script, which was really kind of
Oh yeah,
weird.
yeah.
I can remember an interview I had. See, I'm used to just sitting down with somebody and flowing back and forth, just having a conversation. That's
Right.
the kind of interview I like to have. But I remember, I think it was Verizon I applied for, and I got an interview, and I totally bombed it. And it was because it was so foreign to me, because they were working from a script and they had been trained to ask certain questions and then monitor my response. And they put me in front of a room in a chair with no desk or table in front of me. I was just a chair in the middle of a room.
Okay, it was like a social experiment.
Yeah, weird. So like I'm sitting in this chair with nothing in front of me. That's another thing. Like I feel really weird if there's not something between me and the other person. Most interviews I've had, I sit down with somebody in their office at their desk, or there's a table and they want to write some stuff down or whatever, right? But here I'm just sitting in a chair in the middle of a room, and there's 3 interviewers sitting at different places in this room. And they're asking me questions from a script. And I could not, I couldn't get into the swing of, a conversation, because it wasn't designed to be a conversation. It was designed to be, we're going to ask a question and see how you respond. And so I was totally out of it.
Yeah.
Because I was like, what is going on here? I'm here to have a conversation. And here's another thing. We might have addressed this before, but get good at asking questions. If you can learn to answer a question with a question, that can help too, like, or at least give them an answer, but then also ask a question as well. This interview that I was in with Verizon, there was no room for any of that. I couldn't ask a question. If I asked a question, I sounded like, that was like a mark against me,
Yeah, that's rough.
Yeah, it was really, really bizarre. It reminded me of, because I was a music major in college for a while, and we had things called juries where you had to play. It was kind of like a recital. You had to play your part that you had prepared all semester. And you had a whole bunch of faculty, of different departments all in a row looking at you.
Nice. Yeah, and they're not yeah.
And once in a while they write something down. And it was really, really crazy.
It's funny. It's funny how I remember being in band, and I just remember, so many judges, not just judges, other band students who were like in college, all sorts of different people, and like zero people skills. And it's like, whoa. And then I was like, no wonder I don't have people skills. I'm hanging out with these guys. I just stare at people blankly and expect them to do something. Like what's going on with that?
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah.
But the thing is, like, a lot of them are trained to not show expression, because if you show expression, you're out of line. You're like the weird one, right?
Mm-hmm. How about that?
Yeah, that's what is that? Is that almost sounds like a hairdryer, but I don't think it is.
That's my shredder.
Oh, okay.
And because it's this time of year, there have been a certain number of box elder bugs that have found their way into the house, and so they find their way into the paper shredder. And it's automatic start, so as soon as the sensor determines something's in there, it just starts. So that poor little box elder bug just got shredded.
Wow, what a weird bug killer device.
I know, but it's loud and it gets in the way. So, yeah.
All right. Well, what do you say we head on to the next
Yeah, let's do. Gage, I want to thank you so much for posting. That is a great topic to discuss, and one that a lot of people end up dealing with. I know I've dealt with it numerous times in different interviews. And when I learned the principles of what Ryan was talking about, with just treating them like a person and just having just flowing the conversation, making them feel comfortable.
Yeah.
So many doors open wide open for you. And yes, box elder bugs. That's what they are.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry for staying on that topic for so long. Anybody who was waiting, but we'll get on to the next one. So, is this one from Princess?
Well, we've got 3 actually. We've got.
Oh yeah. Okay. Well, we did Lay's.
Yep. Well, Lay's got a new.
Oh yeah, we didn't. There's another one by Lay. Okay. So we got Lonely.
Lay said.
Yeah, go on.
Oh. Yep. Gonna have to check out. Had a rather unexpected phone call, so he had to go.
Okay. He had to go.
So Lay, if you come back, just let us know. We'll handle what you posted.
Yeah.
But we also have Akil.
True. Wait, Akil has one. Oh, left and right.
Yep.
All right.
Akil has left and right, and then Princess has the other one, and Princess says. Let
me sort by the start date. Okay, it's already on there. Good. Okay.
Oh, gee, Akil's got to go.
Akil's getting a haircut. All right, Akil. Well. Oh, poor Princess. We're gonna have to get yours names.
But Princess,
everybody, but she's making food, so
yeah.
Have a good haircut, man. That's great. All right, so the 3 people that were here just opted out of there. Wow.
Oh my goodness. My goodness. But this is how awesome, I mean, what a great community we have.
Yeah, I'll just have to do 3 things at once for a bit. We can hold off on it if you want. I mean, we can obviously discuss the various different existences of many different existences in the world. Like there is rock, but then there is also sandpaper.
And water.
Yeah, these are different things. And you can put the 3 together, but then you still have just the 3 things.
And you end up wet sanding a rock.
Yes, you wet sanding a rock, right? Which wet sandpaper doesn't work very good.
It does for certain applications.
I think it depends on the sandpaper, because wet sandpaper, if it gets wet, if it's paper, it can get torn. But wet sanding is a thing for sure. You guys are gonna blow my mind here. I don't think so. I don't think so. I'm sorry, but I love talking to my barber. That's awesome. That's awesome, dude.
I love talking to my barber too.
Yeah.
Before my barber was myself.
Oh, wait. But you can still love talking to yourself. I mean,
I do it quite a bit, but like, the guy never teaches me anything new.
The barber or you?
My barber now, because I am my barber.
Well, what do you mean never teaches you anything new?
Because everything I know is known by me.
Don't you ever discover things by reflecting?
I do, but I don't figure that comes from me. I figure that comes from God.
Well, okay, but aren't you the one that went through the experiences? So ultimately you taught yourself in a way? Like,
yeah, but where the experience didn't come from me, the experience came from outside me. So the experience.
Well, sometimes, like, for example, if you are 1 year old and you don't know how to walk yet, you learn how to walk by trying, right? And so you learn through your own efforts.
Mm-hmm.
So you teach yourself something.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that still stands true for later things in life, besides walking.
Okay.
All right. He doesn't teach you much, though. That's fine. I get it.
Let's just say I learn more from sources outside myself.
Thanks, princess. Yeah, I get it. I get it. Yeah. I mean, it's not very often that you come up with like something new that you didn't teach yourself before. You're like, whoa, I just realized when I put these two thoughts together, it's a new thought. Whoa.
Yeah.
Why did I never do that before? I should have been doing that like years ago.
And it must be correct because I think it. You ever notice that?
Yeah, I think that's
when you think a thought, you automatically think it's right.
That's the unfortunate truth. A lot of times people don't question their own selves.
Even if it's wrong. And if it's wrong, oh man.
Yeah.
Then you have to admit you're wrong.
Yeah, and that's not fun.
It's not, but
it can be fun.
It's very valuable. And it's okay to be wrong. You know, this gets to one of the things Ryan was talking about in the previous topic, where it's like people love to teach you things. You know, if you ask somebody a question about how to do something and you give them the chance to teach you something, they love that because it makes them feel smart. It makes them feel competent, all that kind of stuff. And so if you can admit you're wrong to other people, then that gives them a chance to be right. It improves their life by improving their self-esteem. They feel, you know, a sense of superiority. And if you're okay with being wrong and it doesn't, you know, because you can be wrong and it doesn't have to hurt your self-confidence, because everybody's wrong from time to time. You know, it's okay. We all have been wrong before, and, you know, everybody will be wrong again, I'm sure. You know, so at least I will be. So when you get comfortable with that, it gives you an opportunity to improve the lives of others by being wrong in front of them. And then it's like, oh, you know what? It gives them the freedom to admit their mistakes, as well as, you know, giving them the feeling of, hey, you know, I got something right. This guy got something wrong. And I think it was you, Ryan, who said to me once, it was really, really impactful. I was having a debate about some theological topic with your brother a few years ago. And he pointed out how he was right and I was wrong. And I said, you're right. Because he was, and I was wrong. And you came up to me later and you said, you know, Joe, I got to tell you, I really respect you for admitting that and for, you know, going with that and accepting, you know, being wrong. And that stuck with me for a long, long time. It still has stuck with me. It's been years, you know. Sure. But that statement where Ryan said he respected me because I was able to concede, you know, in the face of being wrong. My pride didn't get in the way. So
yeah, and that's hard. I think, you know, that of course I respected that, because that's something that I look at and say, wow, that's courageous, and that takes a lot of strength, and I want to be able to do that, right? But yeah, I found, you know, the same things. Like a lot of times we worry we don't want to be wrong, because if we're wrong, other people will look at us and say, oh yeah, they're not always right. You know, they're wrong sometimes. You know, and they'll always remember the thing we were wrong about, right? That's not true. A lot of times people don't care. People just like, yeah, I was right about something. You know, and then they like completely don't even acknowledge you. They're not thinking about how like they're better than you. A lot of times they're just satisfied with the fact that they were right. And a lot of times it's not necessarily about you. And in like a week, maybe sometimes more, depending on what it is, or maybe sometimes less. I don't even remember it the next day, depending on what it is. But people don't remember things like that for the rest of their life. Like people don't remember that kind of stuff. It's not important. And so to be able to admit like, oh yeah, you know, I guess I was wrong about that, you know, or even just to apologize or whatever. Yeah. because people aren't constantly thinking about you like you are.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you can just kind of get over yourself and say, oh yeah, I was wrong. Sorry about that.
You know
Then
why people aren't thinking about you?
people will just look at you and go, wow, that's a strong person. You know, why aren't they thinking about you?
You know why they're not thinking about you?
Why is that?
Because they're thinking about me.
That's true. Yeah. It's hard not to think about it all the time. You are Joe after all.
Yes. No, that's a great, great point. We all think about ourselves more than any other person,
Mm-hmm.
on earth, for sure. And one thing too, it is so disarming when you go up and, like maybe there's an issue and you're trying to get to the bottom of it with somebody. And, even if you know you're right and you know that they're wrong, for you to go up and say, like, these are magic words to say, you know what, I could be wrong. I've been wrong before, for sure, and I could be wrong about this. Even if that in the back of your mind, you absolutely know for sure you're right and that they're wrong. For you to admit that you could possibly be wrong gives them the freedom to also admit that they could possibly be wrong.
It's so true.
You have two people then working toward getting to the bottom of what's true rather than a fight of ego and pride of saying, right. No, I'm right. No, I'm right. No, I'm right. No, I'm right. And you can prove to them that they're wrong, and you can show them the data, and you can show them everything and just be like, look, see, this is how I know I'm right and you're wrong. They will double down and say, nope, I'm right, even when they know they're not right. But now their ego's involved and their pride is involved. And if you'd have just walked in and said, hey, I could be wrong. I've been wrong before. Let's take a look at this. Let's take another look to see, and then, it gives them the freedom to say, oh, it's okay to be wrong. So anyway,
Gage has said, I don't mean to interject. You said it's so true. Thanks, Joe. But yeah, Gage said, if we need some more questions to pass the time.
Well, Jose,
he has a simple question, and so does Jose. Jose has asked a question as well.
Okay.
So, Gage, if you want to, go for it. And because why not? And then, yeah, we can get to Jose's as well.
Yeah. Yep. Well, okay. So Jose has a question over a few posts here, and that's kind of necessary on YouTube sometimes.
Yeah. A lot of times that's required.
Mm-hmm.
Can't
necessarily. Do you want to read this, or do you want me to, Ryan?
Okay, I'll attempt this. So it says, he said, "Hello, may I ask something? It's kind of awkward though, but that's all right. We're all awkward people. That's what we thrive in, awkwardness.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
embrace the awkward.
Yes, embrace the awkward. I think if you can do that, you'll have the heads up on pretty much anything in life." Mm-hmm. So Jose says, well, I like a girl and I've been liking her for about 4 years or so. And I told her I like her. We used to be friends but since I told her, she stopped talking to me. I want to continue talking to her, but I'm too worried / nervous. And she stopped talking to me for 2 months. Okay. Wow.
So this was 2 months ago then, Jose, that you said that you told her you liked her?
Yeah, it seems like 2 months ago, he said to her that he liked her, and now she hasn't talked to him since, and he's not talked to her either because he's worried and nervous.
Yes. It's been 2 months.
Okay.
Wow. Well, Jose, I have to hand it to you. That took some guts to do that. And, it's really, it is a strange question sometimes it's a statement to make. When you tell somebody you like them a certain way, you really are putting yourself out on the line, and because it really becomes a moment of either acceptance of the idea or rejection of the idea, and how it's going to make somebody feel. There's all kinds of ways this could be going right now, and one of the hardest responses is what you are dealing with right now, and that's the silence. Just not when somebody just stops talking to you, and because then there's just questions going, and as painful as it can be to have the outright rejection, sometimes that's easier to deal with than the silence, like what you're dealing with now, because in a way it feels like rejection, to have this person stop talking to you. And frankly, it may be that. It may not be, and it's tough to know until she starts talking to you again. But and I can definitely empathize with the idea that you're nervous and worried. You want to talk to her, but there's a nervousness about it. Absolutely, that's completely normal and natural. But first of all, Jose, I applaud you. That is a lot of guts, and you can probably, if you mustered the guts to do that, I bet deep down you could muster the guts to say something again to her, or to try to approach her again. Now, some of these things you'll just kind of have to watch her responses a little bit. Like if you come close and she gets uncomfortable and walks away, that might be a pretty good indication that she's not ready for you to start talking to her again. But there are all kinds of reasons that she is responding the way she is. There's all kinds of possibilities. One possibility is, she doesn't like you in that way, but she really enjoyed being friends with you, but she doesn't want to give you the impression that she does like you that way. But, so she doesn't want to continue down a path that makes her feel like she would be dishonest or leading you on. That's a possibility. Another possibility is that maybe she likes you, but she doesn't know how to sort that out inside her. Like it seems like Gray said, that could be just getting her thoughts straight. Maybe that just was like, oh my gosh, because that's how she feels too, but she doesn't want to admit that for one reason or another. She doesn't want to quite come to that. She doesn't have the courage to embrace it yet. So that's a possibility as well. Another possibility is, maybe she was embarrassed by the situation. I don't know the context of when you mentioned it to her, if she was around friends or if she was by herself. There are a lot of factors that could play into that response. But either way, where do you go from here? I think one of the best things I've ever done when faced with a similar situation is try to come to grips. Okay, she was by herself. Okay. So that takes a few things off the table. At least she didn't feel embarrassed in front of friends or anything like that. So at least that's off the table.
Well, she could feel embarrassed though, potentially still. Not necessarily like she could feel embarrassed. Like, what if someone asked me? What if my friends like start asking me, "Are you guys dating?" It's going to be so. People are afraid of that situation.
So. Absolutely. Even if they really truly like the person, they just don't want to feel like they're pigeonholed into, oh, we're an item now. We're just not ready for that. What's the classic statement? Not ready for that level of commitment.
Yes, right. Yeah, but anyways, sorry, go on.
So, Jose, first of all, again, I applaud you. Second of all, I know it's painful, and I understand because I've been there. But sometimes an exercise I like to do is, okay, sort out all the potential outcomes here. Sort out, just kind of, even if you have to write them down. Okay, what are the possibilities here? Maybe she likes me, maybe she doesn't. Which one to me is going to hurt the most? Okay, so you write those all down. And this also takes courage, but you've proven you have courage by telling her. So I know you're a courageous person, Jose. And write those all down. Which one of these options would hurt the most? And pick that one and look at it and say, what if that was the case? And, let yourself kind of experience that pain a little bit, but then think about, okay, how am I going to respond if this is the case? So, and go through that process and think, okay, what am I going to do about it? Like if this is the case, if it's the worst that would happen, if it's the most hurtful situation, how am I going to act as a result of that? What's the best way for me to respond?
I like that. Yeah. What's the best way for you to respond? Mm-hmm.
So when you come to grips with that, when you come to that realization, you're like, okay, this is a possibility. It might be what's happening. What am I going to do in response to that? What's the best thing I can do? And so then figure that out. Figure out what's the best thing you can do. And then now you have a plan for the worst possible outcome. And when you have a plan for that, then you can plan for the other outcomes way easier. If you're prepared, most of the time when we're afraid of something, it's because we are afraid of the unknown. And that's what makes this situation most difficult, is because of the unknown factor. You just don't know. She's just not talking, so that's the thing that makes it the hardest. So if you can take the fog away and say, all right, these are the possibilities. This is the worst possibility. What is my response to the worst possibility? Now you have that covered. It takes a lot of the fog away, because really at that point it doesn't matter, because you know exactly what you're going to do anyway. You got a plan. So then from there you can move on to the next ones and figure all that stuff out. So that's what I would do. And then I want to tell you a story. Some of you guys have heard this story before, but when I asked a girl out and she totally rejected me, it took all the courage I had. She didn't stop talking to me. She just told me no. And luckily I was going to not have contact with her again for a long time. So it worked out okay. But still, it hurt because I mustered all this courage to ask her out. And I asked all kinds of different ways too, called her up on the phone. And it was like, you want to get a coffee? I don't drink coffee. You want to go get a burger? I don't eat red meat. You want to go to a movie? Well, I got a boyfriend. Well, why didn't you tell me that for the first one? Like, but then, so she was with this guy and she got engaged to him. And then like more than a year later, she ended up breaking up with him. We started hanging out and then we started dating, and now we're married and we've got 2 children, So there's all kinds of things. Just because something's happening in a moment in your life, it doesn't mean that it's going to be that way forever. This is just one step in your life. And if it's a painful one, it's going to build you, Jose. because we grow through pain. Muscles grow through pain. If you have the right attitude about it, if you respond the right way, you know, pain is stuff that helps us grow. Anytime there's a painful moment, when we heal, that area of our life is stronger than it was before. That's how these things go. And sometimes there's trauma involved that, you know, you've got to go back and really do some deep healing. But in most cases, it's not super traumatic. And when you heal, but when you do finally heal from that experience, that area of your life is way stronger, way more resilient. And, you know, so there are good things in store for you through this experience, no matter how it shakes out. And so I got to tell you, I'm proud of you, Jose. It took guts. I know it's hard right now, but you can go through that, you know, understand the way things are now is not the way things will be forever. All things pass. And this will too. And how you respond is really up to how the situation is, I guess. I mean, if you approach her and she avoids you, that's a really good sign that, you know, maybe it's time to avoid her. You know? Sometimes it's really weird. Sometimes in relationships, you know, if somebody rejects me, I'll reject them back. And what's funny is when I reject them, now all of a sudden they're drawn to me. And I'm like, wait a minute, no, I'm rejecting you. Like, leave me alone. You know? So anyway, that's pretty much what I got. But Ryan, I'm gonna leave it to you, sir.
All right. Yeah, thanks, Joe. You've touched on so much, and it's hard to really follow that up with much. I will say, with what you were just talking about, sometimes when you reject people, they start coming back. I noticed when I was in high school, you know, there were a lot of different girls I had crushes on through that, or middle school as well. Obviously, middle school, high school, there were tons of different girls that individually I had crushes on throughout my lifetime. And I noticed the more, like, later in life, the less I cared about having a girlfriend, the more I appeared attractive to them.
Mm.
The less that I was searching, the more that I became someone to them who was qualified. And I think that's because when you are in search of a girlfriend, it makes you the one who is requesting something from them. And they don't see that as a strength. They see that as a weakness. Just naturally, not necessarily like that they're going through all of these thoughts in their head, but it's happening kind of behind the scenes in their subconscious mind. They look at you and they see someone who is not necessarily completely, like, it takes a lot of courage to ask somebody, and that's amazing. There's so many people who are, I mean, everybody is afraid of doing that. And so few people ever actually do it. And so again, props to you, Jose. But yeah, when you are asking somebody, a lot of times I think it's important to ask yourself the question, why are you asking? Because who are you asking for? Are you asking for that person, or are you asking for yourself? A lot of times when we love somebody and we want to date them, it's out of an interest that we have, not necessarily a fantasy, but I'm going to say a fantasy that we want to fulfill, a dream that we want, that we're in search for, that requires this other person. And there's nothing wrong with that per se, but when we are in a place where it's like, I just want a girlfriend, that's the worst time to be in a relationship. Mm-hmm. Because then you're in it for yourself and you're not in it for them. I think it's best to let a relationship grow together where both parties start to feel mutually like, hey, let's live our lives together because it seems to be, I make you a better person, you make me a better person. That's awesome. When you're, just friends, and then that friendship develops into something more, something where you both desire something more. Now, of course, a lot of times someone has to ask the question first, like, hey, like, will you go out with me? Yeah, just you've been liking the girl for 4 years, right? And so you've obviously have a relationship with her before, for 4 years, be a friend, etc. I think that's awesome. But yeah, a lot of times we're asking for our own delight rather than theirs. Because when you're in a relationship, who's it about? Is it about you or is it about them? It should be about them, not about you. And so always try to keep that in mind. And I think that that's what's most attractive is when you start to reject people or you start to not look for relationships, then people look at you as someone who's confident, someone who's just a good person, who's honest. And then they look at you and say, that's the kind of person I want to be with. And then they start asking you, and then you're like, sorry, I'm not really going for a relationship right now, or maybe you'll be like, sure, okay, sounds great. But I think a lot of times, again, yeah, when you're looking for a relationship, that's the worst time to have a relationship, because it puts you in a position where you're needing rather than giving. You're wanting rather than, giving what you have, because you are yourself a gift. You are absolutely something that is a gift to be given to others.
Mm-hmm.
With your body, with your mind, with all that you have, you are a gift to others. And people who are around you, you give yourself to them. You give your attitude, you give your perspective. And so you're constantly giving other people who you are. And in a relationship, that's crucial to remember, because you have to remember that in a relationship, you're trying to give them you so that they can grow to become their best, while you work on becoming the best yourself. And so, relationships aren't fair necessarily. Joe has said this before, and he's said this a couple of days ago too. It's something along the lines of, it isn't your job to make your wife happy. Mm-hmm. That's not your job, because that's up to her. Mm-hmm. That's up to her and God. Like, whether she's happy or not has nothing to do with you. Exactly. It's not your job. It's not your responsibility. And that's true in a relationship, in any kind of relationship. Women, it's not a woman's job to make her husband happy. It's up to the husband to do for himself, because she doesn't get to control his emotions. She doesn't get to control what he does, and so keeping that in mind, we can still have an effect on people. We can give people our best, but that doesn't necessarily mean like I should look at this person and say, oh, this person makes me happy, right? We should try to stay away from that. We should try to stay away from looking at somebody and going, they complete me. They make me happy. Mm-hmm. They make me, because while that can be somewhat true, it's not reliable. Right. You can't rely on somebody else thinking that they're always thinking of you and trying their best to make you happy, because that's not their responsibility. Right. You have to rely on yourself for that. So if you're seeking a relationship because you want fulfillment in yourself, if you want to be happy, and this isn't to you, Jose, this is just to everybody. Because I'm not saying that you're in a position where you're only asking her because you want to be happy yourself. I'm just saying, as a general rule, because I see so many people go through this, people end up in relationships, and then, a couple of weeks down the line, maybe a couple of months, maybe even sometimes a year, they realize, I'm not happy. And then they take that and some reason they say, well, if I'm not happy, then it must be the person I'm with. Mm-hmm. And they say, well, then clearly I'm not supposed to be with this person, and they break up. Mm-hmm. And that's totally backwards. Right. Like, so you were in the relationship for yourself the whole time. It was never about the other person, was it? And that's terrible. And so, and And again, I'm not accusing you of that. I'm just saying, that's just something that needs to be said and put out there. This will help me in the future too. So I don't worry. I kind of help my friends too, but somehow I can't help myself. I totally understand that. Yeah. A lot of times encouraging ourselves to encounter somebody, make conversation, it's hard. But when it comes to other people, we're like, yeah, you could do it, buddy. You got this.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty normal. I think when it comes to making conversation with her again, because that's ultimately what you want at this point, is just keeping, contact with her, keeping a friendship alive, making something good out of it. If you want to talk to her again, I think the best thing you can do, is to be tactful, or to be open and honest. To be open and honest, I find usually helps me the most. To be open, honest, and at fault, you could say. You could say, hey, I'm sorry for making things weird and awkward. That obviously wasn't my intention. But like, you're my friend and I want to be a friend. So is it cool if we talk? Is it cool if we, sit down and talk sometime? And honestly, the faster you can get through that phase and just move straight to having a good time,
yeah,
the better. Because if you just make it like, you could potentially just skip over the conversation of, I'm sorry that happened. It's good to lead with that. It's good to lead with an apology. That way they feel like they can forgive you and that they can move on from it.
Right.
But ultimately, if you just be a friend, that's all you need to do. Go up to her and be a friend. Be someone who's looking out for her and helping her having a good time. Make a joke, be fun, be yourself, obviously. But yeah, just do your best to be a friend. Now, again, Joe was talking about, she might just reject you completely outright and just walk away from you. That's a possibility. But as a friend, how do you look at that? You say, okay, that person needs time. That's all. That person needs time. I'll talk to him again later. I'll try again later, and then, if you try again later and they're still not responsive after 3 times, you can approach them and say, hey, is there are you okay? Because it doesn't something's off. It doesn't seem right, and I know it's been 2 months, so it can be hard to do that. But, just being caring and then being enjoyable to be around, having a fun time. That's all you can do. And that will probably move you through this whole thing. It'll move you through the ordeal. It'll get you through it. I have pretty high expectations of that. Just doing that will help, but it might not. And Joe, like Joe said, you can look at what happens if it doesn't work out? Then what? Well, life goes on. I don't want to say there's plenty of fish in the sea, but really there are. And I don't just mean that for relationships. I mean that for friendships, for anything.
And for actual fish in the actual
And for actual fish in the actual literal sea. Yes. I mean, you got plenty of fish there. There's walleye, there's bluegill, there's bass of the many different varieties. There's a pigeon. I don't know why the pigeon's in the water, but whatever. There's all sorts of different fish. Some of them look like birds. Some of them look like spiders that crawl in the water. Wait. Anyway, yeah. Some people are weird fish. I tell you, some people are weird fish. Maybe that's the line you have to tell yourself from time to time. When people are weird, you just wow, some people are just really weird fish.
Yeah.
Some people don't make for very good fish, I'll tell you. But sometimes.
Oh, go ahead.
Walk away from people. Sometimes you have to walk away from people. Sometimes relationships end, and that's okay. That is okay. A lot of times, when we're growing up, I think Derek actually is the one who said this first, and I loved it. When we're growing up, we're in a position where we're going to school, we're around the same people all the time, and that's all we've experienced. And so we feel like everybody that we meet in school, either is our enemy or they're our friend, right? And since that's really all we've ever seen, we feel like the friendships that we have to last forever. And that the friendships that are there are all that there is. But truth is, this isn't just my story. This is like most people's story. Once you leave high school, you find new friends. Mm-hmm. You find new friends from all sorts of different places. Mm-hmm. And you start to lose your old friends, not necessarily because you're upset at each other, but just because you move on in life and you meet new people and you have different jobs, you have different time schedules, you have different things going on. And then you just don't talk to the person. And then, you know what, years later, you'll talk to them and you'll strike up a conversation and it'll be like you guys were friends the whole time. Mm-hmm. But we move on in life and that's good. That's important. We're supposed to. So even if the relationship doesn't ever come back to being friends, that's okay. That's okay. We're not made to, we can't possibly please everybody. Right. You know, and that's not our job to do. Our job is obviously to help do that. I mean, it's good to do that. But you can't please everybody and you don't need to. It's more important to serve the people that are around us that are accepting that service than it is to try to go out of our way to serve somebody who is absolutely outright rejecting us, because then our time is just mostly wasted. When people are, you know, standing in front of us and they're like, hey, I'm your friend, and you be a friend to them, that's healthy and that will move you forward. But if you have somebody who just doesn't talk to you anymore and you're going to go out of your way to say, hey, I want to be your friend, I want to be your friend, I want to be your friend, you know, and they're not responding well to it, then you're not doing yourself any service and you're not doing them any service either. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it's good to make friends out of strangers. Absolutely. And it's good to make friends out of people who were used to be enemies or old friends. But again, if they're just pushing you away, then that's okay. You don't need to be their friend. Mm-hmm. And that's okay to move on. There are plenty of fish in the sea and life moves on and it's good. So yeah, anyways, worst comes to worst, life goes on. Mm-hmm. And that's okay. You know, relationships, they can come and go sometimes, you know, but they all matter. You never regret having a friendship. They all matter. They're all important, and they all help us to move forward in different parts of our life. And they all help us to grow. Like the love that you've given to your friends now has changed them and is going to change them 20 years in the future. They're going to be a different person because you were in their life, and hopefully a better person if that's the kind of friend you're being, a good friend. So yeah, it's not like it's worthless. It's worth everything. It's awesome. You know, it's worth everything you can give it. So, but yeah, friends move on and that's normal. All right.
That's perfect. That's perfect. I was just wanting to say that's perfect. In the meantime, I can tell Jose that you have some pretty strong emotions here. Mm-hmm. For this gal, and it's tough when those emotions are not reciprocated. Yeah. So like they're not responded to. So what you can do with that emotion, I do want to handle that before we get to the next topic, and that is emotion, no matter what it is, strong emotion like you have here is tremendous creative energy. Tremendous. And so if you are involved in any type of art form, it's a great place to put that, you know, that emotional, strong emotional power that you have, you know, in this situation. You know, you can channel it into, I know that I've written the best songs under emotional distress, you know, but whether it's music or art or even building, but something creative in the sciences, there's tons of room for creativity. You can take that powerful emotion and you can point it in the direction of creating. And you will innovate. And it's really amazing. It's a tremendous use of that energy that can get so pent up, especially in a situation like this, where it's just like you feel these feelings and they're so strong and they're not being responded to. There's no outlet for them at all. You can take them and you can create an outlet through doing something creative.
That's true.
And your work will be absolutely tremendous because you will have all this energy and power to throw at it. And so if you can learn to do that, you will create some amazing, amazing things through this experience. But what Ryan said is so, so important, that, hey, whatever happens here, it's okay. You're going to be fine. And it's going to be just fine. You know, things happen like this all the time, and it's okay. It's how life is. So we absolutely love you, Jose, and be sure you continue going to bss.studio and, you know, hang out with the folks there, because there's so many great people that'll just surround you with love and encouragement.
That's true.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks for being here. Also, we're happy to have you. And
yes.
Again, good job at doing the hardest step. Seriously, of asking the girl out, because my gosh, that is not easy. We all know that's not easy. So,
yep.
Well done.
Yeah. And thank you for posting. Took a lot of guts to post.
Oh, yeah. For sure. So. All right. I have to assume Princess is ready for hers. And I didn't see Lay or Akil. So, well, I don't think Akil's coming back. He's got a haircut. But
that's right. He's talking to the barber.
Yeah, he's going to have a long conversation about hair, which is awesome. I like hair too. So,
well, when you go to the barbershop, you haven't been to the barbershop in decades, probably, Ryan. So
you're right. You are 100% right. Although I actually did enjoy conversations with my barber back when I was going.
Yeah, most barbershop conversations I've had have not been about hair.
No, they've never really been about hair.
So yes, Princess has finished cooking and eating dinner, which is what, you know, her topic is somewhat about dinner.
All right.
So yes. Is it my turn to read?
Yes, it is.
I was gonna say, just say yes.
Just say yes. for the sake of your own yeah.
Difficulty. Don't worry about it. Just say yes. Don't worry.
Say yes.
Just say yes. Yeah. Okay. Princess Yellow posts about lonely meals, and she put this at the website bss.studio. She posts, being a college student with a food allergy has more setbacks than grocery trips and making all your own meals. There's something special about being able to eat with people other than just yourself. It's very true. I can justify why eating meals alone is the way it is, all I want, but it doesn't stop my heart from wanting to eat sometimes or from not wanting to eat sometimes, because I know there's not going to be anyone to eat with. Most other students can eat at the cafeteria together, but I can't eat there often because they don't provide adequate options for my needs. And though I've offered to make food for others if they want to eat with me, oftentimes they reject it due to not wanting to use my money for a meal. Eating out is also not much of an option, since that can be quite expensive too. Any advice on ways to bring warmth into eating meals when these feelings come? Wow. That, Princess, is a tremendous question. Wow.
Yeah, seriously. That's a really interesting question.
Yep. There's a lot in there, and I'm sorry. I have to start by saying I'm so sorry that you have to experience that, because I can totally understand loneliness and that feeling of, doing things and wanting to be around others. So
Mhm.
Ryan, what do you got?
It's embarrassing though. Ah, I see. Yeah. I don't think it's anything to be embarrassed over, but I can understand being embarrassed. Absolutely. Um, it's funny because I just literally watched an episode of an anime yesterday, and the main theme of that episode was being embarrassed because you're alone and other people can see that you're alone, and that was embarrassing. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. It is a thing that we go through, especially like in school, um, middle school, especially for me. Um, but yeah. So, anyways, what you talked about, honestly, there's so much truth in eating, joining in meals together. I mean, that is human nature and humanity in itself throughout all of history. Joining together in a meal is what a lot of times brings people into a community, to commune with each other, to be a part of something. And I mean, if you look through, I can look through the ancient Chinese symbols, and and they've got many different symbols that are about eating and how eating is, how you communicate with people, how you socialize, because that's generally why everybody got together. So, I can understand why this is a relatively uh, emotional and decent sized issue. Um, and so I don't think that you're alone here. I think that there's probably a lot of people who experience this. But anyways, I would recommend some ideas, two things that are maybe proactive on your part. A lot of times, if you ask people like, "Hey, hey, let's get together for a meal. I'll make the meal or whatever," people are gonna say no because they're trying to be respectful, and they understand that you are a college student, you don't have a whole lot of money, and um, maybe they even already had plans, right? But a lot of times, it's about not wanting to be a burden. So people are out of their kindness say, "No, no, 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 you don't have to do that." What you can do is not ask, make them a meal, and bring it to them.
Hmm.
Because then they can't reject it. The food is going to get old if they don't eat it. And then you've kind of pushed them into the corner, but they were going to eat anyways. And now they get to enjoy it with you. Um, and then they don't have to go through the situation of, being asked and having to figure out how to turn you down. Instead, they're just receiving a gift. Make it a gift, and then they can just enjoy it with you. They might feel a little indebted. That's kind of normal. Like, oh no, now I'm in debt. I have to. How do I have to? What do I have to give back? Um, you know, but you can just let them know, like, hey, I'm doing this actually more for me than it is for you. I wanted to eat with somebody because it's been a long time, and so I decided, hey, if I made you food, you'd probably eat it, and so here we are. You tell them
Mhm.
straight out, and then they won't necessarily feel like they're in debt. Like, oh, now I owe them. Um, if you can get them at the table, you can do that. Yeah, I've done that a bit with those who are around when I make it. Awesome. So there's one idea for you. Obviously, you can't do that all the time, but that's an option. Another thing is that you can do. I don't know if they allow this, but at your cafeteria, I know that you're in college, so it's not like a school cafeteria, in like middle school, high school, etc. By the way, hey, hi Maria. Um, so what I would also suggest is bring your own lunch to the cafeteria. You're gonna have to make your own stuff anyways. So why don't you make it early, and then when it's time to go to the cafeteria, you can just bring it to the cafeteria with you. That way you can eat, yeah, sure, different food than everybody, but you're eating at least in company with those people who you cherish. Um, and I'm sure you've thought of that, but maybe you haven't. But I think that's a good route as long as your school's okay with that. I know some schools are a little bit weird on like, hey, you can't bring in your own meals, etc., that kind of thing. Um, but they should be okay with it. I guess you'd have to learn of those stipulations yourself. But anyways, yeah, make your own meal and then come into the cafeteria and eat it instead of making your meal and eating it at your apartment or dorm room. Just go there to eat it, and then you can have some camaraderie. Wow, camaraderie. That's the word. Camaraderie. I got it. Camaraderie. Because comrade, that's where the word comes from. Anyways, etymology. So anyways, those are my two ideas. And they might not suffice all the time. But no one necessarily gets to eat every meal with another person. Another thing you can do is, it's not necessarily the same, but you can always try to talk to people online while you're eating. It's not exactly the same, but it's something. Okay, that's not allowed, and I'll still have to make/prepare my own meal when I am there, and I am at least 10 minutes late to the meal. Gotcha. Okay, as I was like, I think you would have thought of this, but I just had to put it out there. Okay, so yeah, there's some simulations there. It doesn't really exactly work out. But yeah, another thing is a lot of times, we experience, being alone differently based on our personalities and based on just different experiences in life. I'm the kind of guy, you know this, I don't mind being alone at all. I enjoy my alone time. What I would recommend is trying to learn how to enjoy your alone time. Try to appreciate your alone time. I know you're a woman of faith, so remember, you can pray. You're never alone. And you can enjoy the food, and remember to enjoy the food in a way that is thankful and joyful. What I mean is, if I'm alone and I have nothing to do or whatever, I'm in silence, I can take a bite of food and say, and converse with God about the food, right? So then it's not like I'm alone. I'm sharing an experience with the Creator, right? And everything you do, you're sharing an experience with, creation itself. So you can try to take that attitude towards it, and seeing it as not necessarily being alone, but being able to enjoy the food in solidarity while conversing with the Creator, and trying to enjoy that aspect of it. And it's a time of reflection and so on, and prayer, enjoyment, whatever. It's a lot about your own personal attitude towards it. Now, again, you're a different personality than I am, so that's not necessarily your go-to, and that'll take a lot of effort on your side. But the effort will be worth it. You'll feel like it's important. It'll be, the more effort you put into something, the more you get out of it. So you can try that, when all else fails. But, obviously you can only do that so much because your own personality, you'll get to a point where it's like, okay, I need to eat with somebody, like, and then, you can just resort to the pre-mentioned, whatever. The thing I mentioned before, which was basically forcing a meal on somebody, but really you're giving it as a gift. So they get something that they didn't have to pay for, and that's cool. So just being someone who's willing to do that, I think that's really all the best advice I have. I'm interested to see what Joe might have to say about the subject. So, yeah.
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot to say because I'm horrible with this. I generally only eat with others 2 days out of the week.
I'm sure you wish it was more, but
I do, yeah. But just because of the way things are right now, the way my extremely busy and hectic life is, I eat by myself more times than others. And when I eat breakfast, it's basically just drinking a protein shake that I mix up myself and just like slam it. And
Hey, at least you
then,
make it.
yeah.
It's not like I just grabbed this out of the and I wrapped it from a wrapper.
Right. Yeah, no, it's a great concoction of
It
all
is.
kinds of
I
wonderful.
like it.
It's like a coffee chocolate peanut butter
It's pretty good.
wonderfulness. Yeah, it's good. Um, but yeah, so Princess, I understand that is so hard, and especially it's like a whole dimension of life that gets turned off or closed off to you. The idea of the food allergies, that whole dimension, that's another thing we deal with as a family too. My youngest son has a pretty severe food allergy, so we we're part of the martial arts school, and every time they have a belt testing ceremony, there's the testing, and then there's the belt ceremony where you actually get your belt, and that's the like the awards ceremony type thing. They every single time have a potluck, every single time, and this happens like every 2 months. You know, we
Hmm.
go, we have belt testing, and then we have the ceremony, and then there's a potluck, and we never, ever, ever can go to the potluck ever. And so that's a whole like this is a community that we're a part of, and we can't do that. So I understand that type of pain, that type of longing to want to be included in an activity, and you can't because of the food allergy situation. You know, and it's not that you know in that situation, everybody we're all friends. We all love each other. We don't want. It's
No one's wanted
hard.
it. But
It's hard to explain. Like you sit there and you tell, "Oh, why aren't you staying for the potluck? Aren't you staying for the potluck?" No, we're not staying for the potluck. And they're like, "Why aren't you staying for the potluck?" Well, because you know my son has severe tree nut allergy, and well, I don't think can't you just stay away from the things that are tree nuts? It's like, well, it's a little bit more involved than that. A lot of this stuff is homemade, and a lot of ingredients have been processed in a facility that also processes tree nuts. And we can't expect a person to check the labels as vigilantly as we have to in order to deal with this situation, because we have to check every single food label and make sure that it's absolutely tree nut free. you know so we can't expect somebody to do that with every single ingredient that they're putting in the thing they're making homemade from scratch, which is what we have to do,
hmm
So in order to, and that's just for the safety of my child, So we have to be really careful. Also, a lot of times people will buy they'll go to the big grocery store, Meijer or Walmart or whatever, and they'll just get something from the bakery. They'll get cookies or something, cupcakes or something from the bakery, and they'll bring that. Well, that's not safe because all that stuff gets, in there with different tree nut stuff. And so, none of that stuff is safe for them. So anyway, so Princess, I can totally understand your options being limited because of that, and the feeling of exclusion because of that situation, and it's really painful. And people wonder why, and you can't really, and you try to explain it, but nobody understands until they're actually in the situation. You know, like I never really understood until we had our son who had this allergy, and then all of a sudden this whole new world of barriers shows up.
Yeah. Sounds. Yeah.
And yeah, so I totally get where you're at, Princess. um and I want to eat meals with others more often as well. So I'll tell you what you should do, and I'll tell you what I do, and they're not the same thing. You should do what Ryan said.
I don't know about that. I try to give my best advice, but that's all I could come up with. I haven't experienced any food allergy. Well, I used to be allergic to everything when I was a kid, but that's besides the point.
Yep. You should spend that time that you're forced to be alone. Spend that time being thankful for the food, which, I mean, I think we all are to some degree, but, to really experience that gratitude for the fact that there's food for you to eat, that's a really huge thing. Another thing, and to spend that time alone with our creator is huge. What I do is I generally, well, okay, so like I said, for my breakfast, it's just really fast and I'm just standing there in the kitchen drinking this shake quickly, and then I'm off doing all the other stuff I got to do to get ready for my day. My second meal, if I eat lunch, that's usually while I'm in the car and I have, just like a protein bar or shake in the bar or something, something really quick and simple that I can eat while I drive. Maybe I made a sandwich, something like that. But then the when I have my larger dinner meal, this is the one where I generally distract myself. So I'll grab my food and I'll bring it down to my desk and I will turn on my computer and I'll either watch YouTube videos or work on something while I eat, or because obviously there's all kinds of I have lots and lots of tasks to accomplish, so it doesn't stop because I have to eat. So I figure I might as well use that time and get something done while I'm eating. Or if I just cannot do a task, maybe I'll put on YouTube. I like looking at houses. I like looking at different recording studios that people have built. I like kind of dreaming about the future, and YouTube can help with some of that to kind of get visions. But yeah, so a lot of times at dinner, I will do things to distract myself from the fact that I'm by myself. And that's not necessarily the healthiest option. I think I will probably try more of what Ryan recommended. That sounds like way better advice than what I actually do.
Yeah, well, a lot of times I don't do that, but then sometimes I remember to do that too. Like, I have a meal and I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to take it downstairs to my computer and work on something or watch something. I'm just going to eat it right here in the kitchen with silence, and I find that if I do that, I can take a moment to actually enjoy the food, like to actually focus on the food and go the tastes, what that sort of thing.
Yep. It's amazing. But yeah, so Princess, I feel where you're at. I understand that loneliness and that struggle, and especially when it's imposed upon you by a food allergy, to some degree. Because if you could go to the cafeteria and eat with friends there, you would. But there's nothing, a lot of times there's nothing to eat, like you said, because you can't, there's too much cross contamination. You can't necessarily trust what's being prepared, and it's not their fault. It's just that, you have to be a lot more picky, for your safety, which is really, it's a tough dimension to deal with, but totally real. And I understand. And I still have not made that recipe you sent me. You sent me a link to a really awesome looking recipe, and I still have not made that, but that's because I don't know, a lot of time to prepare stuff.
It takes time. What time?
I know. Like I eat a lot of bagged salad because it's cheap and it's good for you. And I'll eat that, and I'll grab I'll grab some chicken, like a can of chicken.
Princess, is the only rule you can't be there if you don't buy food? Because what if you bought somebody else's food, or you bought like the cheapest thing you can find? You bring
Or a
your own
drink.
milk, you buy the cheapest drink, or drinks. You can probably not have any problem with drinks unless they're putting wheat in your drinks, which is totally weird. They do it in soy sauce, but I don't think they do it in water. Buy like the cheapest thing, and then go there with your own meal. Buy the cheapest thing you can. If you can't eat that thing, give it to somebody else. And just say, I had to buy this so I could eat here. It's like, this is totally yours. Like, don't feel guilty about it. Like, I have to do this in order to eat here. So I wanted to eat with you guys. So, this is what I had to go through. That's not a bad idea. If that's the only stipulation. Because then you could totally bring your whole meal with you. And then you're buying from them.
Well, sometimes, well, I can understand the rule about not bringing outside food.
Yeah, a lot of times they can't bring outside food in, yeah.
All the meals are at a single rate. So no matter what you get, you pay the same price.
Oh, it's one of those. Oh, yeah, I forgot. Most colleges have that. Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah. Ugh. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, you can't bring food unless it's naked. Yeah, because it's outside cross-contamination. Right. One thing I was going to say, though, also with loneliness, loneliness is ultimately a longing. It's a desire. It's a desire for something you don't currently have. And that in loneliness, it's that desire specifically, that thing you don't have is communication or physical contact of some sort, a relationship, that sort of stimulus, that sort of emotion that comes along with that, the comfort, whatever it is, something that you receive from another person. It's that desire for that object. And it's not an evil thing to have. A lot of times when we think of desires, we think that's bad. No, it's a good thing. It's a healthy thing. It's good to desire that. But one thing you can try to do is train your mind to desire that a little less. If you think back, throughout your life, you've seen a lot of times where it's just not fair. It's just not fair. Like, everyone bought pizza, or you pitched in to buy the pizza, but you don't get to eat any, and out of the kindness of your heart, you do that, but it's also just not fair. So there's a kind of like maybe a bad taste in your mouth with, food, and not being able to enjoy it with people. And because you have that, you desire it more than others might desire it. Because you've gone through that pain, your desire for the opposite is a lot stronger than people who've never gone through that, right? People who have always never really even thought most people probably never really even thought 2 winks. I don't know what that means. Thought 2 winks about the subject of the feeling of not being able to eat with other people. And so knowing that this desire you have comes from, past experiences and just basically the life you've been served, the life you've been given, knowing that might give you the power, a little bit more power over the desire, a little bit more power over like, well, I only want that because, I had to, deal with not being able to, and being maybe, I don't want to say, I definitely wouldn't say envious, but maybe jealous as in the good way, not necessarily the bad way, jealous of, others who get to eat with friends, but a lot of times for me, when I realize like why my thought process is doing what it is, like if I realize something about myself, it gives me the ability to overcome it a lot better. When I pick apart my psychological, like, why do I think this way? Why do I feel this way? And I break it down to all the different segments. Then, because I know what it is, I'm actually a lot stronger in overcoming it. Like, well, I don't have to think that way, do I? There's other people in the room who don't think about that. And so I don't necessarily have to feel this way. So that gives me power to overcome that feeling. And so maybe that'll help. At least a little bit. Of course, what you want, there's nothing wrong with wanting what you want. It's a good thing. But, when you can't always have it, or when you can't have it very often, to kind of quiet the desire, to quiet the feeling of loneliness, can help you make your life a little bit easier on yourself. So that's maybe something you can work through. Just thinking about different events or whatever, or asking yourself why do I have this desire? What am I seeking? And are there other ways to achieve what I'm seeking outside of this situation? Is it okay for me to let go of that desire? These are questions you can ask yourself, and maybe that'll guide you along the path of feeling less lonely. So that's another suggestion.
Yeah. Ryan's got great suggestions on this one. He's got great suggestions on all of them, that's for sure.
Thanks, guys.
I just kind of feel at a loss, but I can relate, Princess. I know that it's hard. I know it hurts. So.
Hey, welcome back, Akil.
Yeah. Yeah. We got Akil here. We got Maria Senpai's here. Kohagen.
We are about the 2-hour mark, though.
We are at about the 2-hour mark. I did want to ask, because I saw Maria here. Did we ever handle the one that she posted a few weeks ago?
What was it?
Let me see.
Because it's been a while.
It was before I went on vacation.
Yeah. All right.
Maria Senpai.
Let's see if I can
work deprived over project.
Work deprived over project. Yeah. Okay.
Did that ever get handled?
I had a bad day today. I worked on an art project collab for class, only to make it not fit with anyone else's, and ended up awful despite my efforts. I feel work deprived right now. I feel tired. I'm work deprived because I worked so hard to make many people proud of me, people who mean a lot to me, but I don't get a lot of credit out of it. Sometimes none at all. I don't think we ever touched on that.
Yeah. I was wondering about that because, that was, boy. Yeah, that was October 17th.
Wow. Yeah, I don't think we ever touched that.
I don't think I handled it. In fact, I remember I was just editing that show. So I was going through all of the different topics, and I remember saying, "Hey, we were gonna save that for later," and that's probably why I thought of it, because I put it in there, and I was like, boom, and then we had to end the show because it was it was late.
Gotcha. Yeah, I didn't realize that we had one. Sorry about that, Maria.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, has Maria been coming, or is this the first time she's been here since that day?
No, she's been here a couple of times since that day. Okay. So, Maria, would you plan on being here again so we can maybe talk about this if you still want us to talk about it? It was obviously a long while ago, but.
Well, it looked like it got handled in the chat quite a bit.
Yeah.
A lot of people.
I have other problems, but those are one of them. Yep, totally understand. We all got problems. You're not alone there.
Yeah, and Princess, maybe it got answered 2 sessions afterwards. So maybe you and Joe handled it, or
I don't feel like Joe and I handled that, or Kyle and I.
Okay.
It might have been handled. Well, obviously, Princess handled it in a way on her own.
Yeah, if you go to the website, Princess
Akil
did awesome. Princess did such a good job cataloging it.
Yeah. So
yeah. Well, Maria, let's see. We don't have a whole lot of time.
And I don't want to eat up Jesse's time because I know that he's in the middle of a big move and that can be hectic.
Well,
he's really...
I want to eat Jesse's time. I'm hungry.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that sounds pretty good right now. I love Jesse's time. Jesse's time is like, he makes the best time. He grows it right in his own kitchen. And it's just, great on pizza and whatever you want to eat time on.
Nice.
THYME time.
Like parsley, sage, rosemary, and thyme.
Yes.
Is. So, all right. Well, dang it. I feel kind of bad. But yeah, we should probably close down this one for tonight.
But yeah, you guys, if you guys have any more concerns or whatever, feel free to, again, ask them anytime. You can ask them here where we're talking right now. I'm sure someone will get to it, probably Princess, post it on the forums, or you can go straight to the forums and post it yourself.
Yes, you can. It can be right here. I'll post the link, the direct link.
Perfect. Thanks, Joe.
Questions and topics from the stream. Go ahead and put it there.
Put her there.
And yeah, so boy, we sure do appreciate you guys. And Maria, I'm so sorry. I really want to get to the topic that you posted.
Let's do that for sure next time we see you here.
Yep. Next time we see you here, we will. Make sure you hit the notification bell, because I know sometimes it's a little bit of
we're not exactly we're not always starting at the same time ever.
Yeah. So the way to know that we're on is to be notified of when we start. So I know it says 7 o'clock on there. I think we did that twice. We talked about changing the time that was listed on there.
But we've decided 7 EST just stands for estimated.
Estimated. So it could be any time between 7 and 9:30.
Yeah. Unfortunately. As a start time.
Maybe as we you guys are hilarious with all these.
That little bell.
Oh man.
No, we got time things going on.
Yes, it's awesome. So yeah, but come back. We will be here on Friday. Might be a little bit later. My kids' activities schedule just changed again this week. So
did they?
So now there is something going on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and Saturday.
Yep.
And then, it's Sunday. Sunday, a lot of times we just go to the fitness club and go swimming. Just, that's what we do for our break, is just go splash around in the pool,
Nice.
Yeah.
Sounds great.
But yeah, or we sit there. But yeah, it gets pretty nuts. But no Jesse hosting. That's right. So Jesse won't be with us, but we'll find a way to be with you.
There you go. Well said.
Yeah. So you guys are tremendous. Thank you for being here again on Don't Worry Wednesday. And stay tuned. There's going to be some individual questions coming out very shortly. I'm just about finished with the next batch. So you'll start to see those trickling out as well. And it won't be long. And this, I just got it linked up today, and it's going through the process of getting moved over. But this will be available as a podcast on Spotify. So, right. And then from there, and also I'm in the process of getting all the iTunes stuff figured out too. So it's going to be available on iTunes, Spotify. It's already available on Podbean. And maybe if you go sooner or later, one of these days, we're going to figure out how to get the Podbean player embedded into the bss.studio website, so it'll be available there. But yeah, you guys, there's been a lot of cool things happening, and we just want to make all of our content more and more available to you guys on more and more platforms. So so you guys can be with us wherever you're at. So you guys here with us on the live streams on YouTube, you guys are the backbone of all of this. So thank you for being here.
Thank you. Yeah.
And go to bss.studio, and we absolutely love you guys more than you can know.
More than you know, more than you'll believe.
Well, yeah, you wouldn't believe it.
Yeah, you wouldn't believe it if I told you. So I'm not even gonna try.
Yeah.
Because I'm gonna
try. I'm gonna try after it gets turned off. You know, then I'm gonna try to explain it, and then I'm gonna see what it's like. Yeah. But yeah, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and yeah, we love you guys. Thank you again so much.
See ya. Bye-bye.
Bye.